What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. You know what time it is. It is Wednesday nights. It is time for No Huddle Necessary. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Super excited. We have a ton of things to get into. Have some of our, as always, our great nuts and bolts sports writers joining us today. Got a great panel. Super excited for these people to come on today. So let's go ahead and introduce you all to the panel. First up, Mr. Bill Carroll. How you doing today? Familiar face.
Well, it's been an interesting time, as we will be getting into in a moment. A lot of people, they're not on the ledge, but they're definitely locating where the ledge closest to them is.
Absolutely. We got a lot to get into. We got a lot to get into right now. Next up, the prodigal son. He made his return not too long ago. He's back again, trying to get his first W of the season. Thomas, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, my friends and family. Boy, oh boy, do we have so much to get into. And man, I hope we have enough time to get it all off our chests.
Absolutely. And from two familiar faces to a new face, joining the Nuts and Bolts Sports Group, as well as making her debut on No Huddle Necessary. That is Miss Kristy Love. Miss Kristy,
everybody.
how are you doing?
I'm all right.
Welcome.
I'm just ready to get into this Bears talk. That's all.
Okay. Listen, we have a ton of things to get into today. We are definitely going to talk about the Bears. I am, like I said, super excited to have you all on here. This kind of is like the episode, we were talking about this before the show. This is kind of an episode of like Hello Darkness, my old friend, because all of our teams right now are just struggling in ruts.
That's an understatement.
So it's going to be, the emotions will fly this episode. I'm sure there's going to be, a tear shed here or there maybe, but let's go ahead and get this thing started. It's time for the first quarter. Alrighty, so today, first quarter, let's talk about the Seahawks. Now, you all know, especially if you've been watching or listening to anything I've been doing as far as podcasts and things, you all know that I've been huge on the NFC West. I think it's the best team or the best division in all of football, and I thought the Seahawks would be one of the better teams in that division. So far, and granted it is still early, they look like the worst. I guess they do have a tough remaining schedule, these next upcoming weeks. Obviously, they still have to play everyone in their division twice. They've got a rough schedule moving forward. Russell Wilson has only missed the playoffs once in his career so far with the Seattle Seahawks. Are the Seahawks in danger of missing the playoffs this year for just the second time under Russell Wilson's reign? Bill, we'll start with you.
Sorry.
I mean, the obvious answer is yes. They're in, as you just mentioned, probably the toughest division in all of football. They have weaknesses that play to the strengths of the teams they're playing. That's not great, right? When the things that you are worst at are some of the things that the teams you have to play are best at. That's not a recipe for success. So unless there are some dramatic changes. So here's the best players on their team on defense. Alton Robinson, right? The young pass rusher from Syracuse. They found something there. Bobby Wagner, right? Despite being so deep into his career, is still a terrific player. Al Woods, right? He's a rotational interior player, but he's given them good snaps. And Darrell Taylor, another interior pressure guy who's also pretty good against the run. And then Russ. And then you've got two really interesting wide receivers, and they've got a bunch of talented, if somewhat brittle, running backs. And then what? Once you get past the names I just gave you, it gets ugly, and it gets ugly fast, and it stays ugly. It is difficult, if not impossible, to win consistently, even if you're in a weak division, if you don't have a really good offensive line, if you don't have a strong offensive or defensive presence and personality. And right now, this team's offensive personality is, hey, Russ, could you do that thing you do where it looks like all is lost, but you snatch success from disaster? And that's cool, like in a Bruce Willis movie or a Bruce Lee movie or any of the Bruce's movies, but it's not a way to build your offense. So they have that issue. And some of their best players on defense are some of their oldest players on defense. Also not awesome. In fact, their best offensive lineman is, get this, Dwayne Brown, who is 36, I think. So this is not what you want. Your best players should not be your oldest players. Where is the young talent? Other than Alton Robbins, who I may mention up earlier, they don't have, on defense, the young players have not really arisen. Now, they've gotten a few good plays out of Mr. Brooks at times, the young linebacker, but he hasn't been consistently good. So they've got a lot to get done. They're in trouble.
Kristy, your turn. Tell me, what's going to happen with this Seattle Seahawks team?
Well, to answer your question about the playoffs, I think it's kind of too early to tell because we are just getting into week 4. The next game they do play the 49ers, then they play the Rams, then they play, I think, Pittsburgh. So with their next couple of games, we'll just have to wait and see how they do. I don't think they're going to miss, but it's still kind of too early to tell, at least for me right now. In their division, I would say that the Seahawks are in probably the toughest division in the NFL because they have the Rams, they have the San Francisco, they're both undefeated. And then you have not Carolina, you have the Cardinals, who is, I think they're on a come up. So they do have a tough schedule because their schedule kind of looks like the Bears' schedule. So they do have to play like a lot of elite quarterbacks and whatnot. But for the playoffs, I think it's just too early to tell. It's just too early to tell. So we'll have to wait and see. That's just me.
Kristy saying, let's pump the brakes. I respect it. Like I said, it is early. It is early. It is early. I get it. Thomas, how about you?
I gotta be honest here, guys. I'm concerned for 3 reasons. One, Russell Wilson's on my fantasy team, so I kind of hope that this doesn't go down the drain. But in all seriousness, there is cause for concern. However, there's no need to hit the panic button just yet. But my concern is for the defense, because the defense looks like it might be similar to how it was last year, where like they were in the conversation for like all-time worst defense like ever in a certain point in time during the year. Through 3 games already, the secondary has no interceptions, which that's playing against Carson Wentz, who has no problem giving the defense the football. Ryan Tannehill, who can't keep the ball in his hands, and Kirk Cousins, who would have no problem giving the defense the football, smiling in your face as he does it, and make sure he goes back to the sideline. Not a single interception. Their opponents, the Seahawks, obviously, they already are losing the battle in terms of time of possession. Their opponents are averaging 38 minutes of time with the football. Like, that's crazy. That means that no matter how long these drives are, you can't find yourself to take the ball away from the opposing offense, and that's troubling to me. Also taking into consideration that they're giving up 5.8 yards per play.
Carry.
Which basically means that if you ever need a first down, just ask the Seahawks. They just give you 2 plays, and that over a long period of time, I don't think that's going to be a very successful way of going about things. And then you turn over to the offensive side of the ball. You got the offensive line who's already given up 8 sacks. I mean, what's new? We're so focused on letting Russ cook, we might as well just let him clean and do the laundry and play secondary and block for himself, catch passes to himself. I mean, just let him do everything. And I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm like, okay, 49ers, Rams, Steelers, Saints. That's the next 4 games.
Yep.
Their defenses combined already have 26 sacks. So you're telling me that this Seahawks team that is led by their 36-year-old offensive tackle who is brittle already, and y'all gave him a 4-year extension, I believe, which I thought that was very smart. Um, y'all are literally putting Russell Wilson in harm's way. But of course, just like the Seahawks always do, they they like to put us in this situation as far as the media and fans where it's like, okay, it seems like all hope is lost, and then all of a sudden they get on a stretch, 7, 8 wins, and next thing you know, they're right back in playoff contention. So I would just say, no need to hit the panic button just yet, but man, is there a lot of concern.
And I do think that's a good point that you bring up, Thomas, about we kind of say this every year about the Seahawks, right? Like, at least the concerns have been the same in Seattle. It's like, oh, will they get an offensive line for Russ? Oh, can that defense get back to what it was when, they were the Legion of Boom? And, can they get a consistent running back? Like, I feel like we do kind of have this conversation every year about Seattle. And Russ is just so amazing that he finds a way to make it work.
They shouldn't be called the Seahawks, Dom. They should be called the Groundhogs because it's like Groundhog Day married to a Seahawk.
Absolutely.
I don't get it. Like, we have these same conversations about the Seahawks every single year, just for them to either win a division or get into the playoffs anyway. It's so weird. The defense picks the right time to start turning the switch, just for them to turn it right back off come playoff time. Then you have the offense that clicks at the right time throughout the entire year, and then when it comes to the playoff time, it's hard for them to find because somebody's not blocking or somebody got hurt. It's the same thing every single year. It never changes.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, we'll see. More than likely, Russell Wilson will find a way to get it done, and they'll make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Kristy, like you said, it is early. They still have time. They do have a tough schedule coming up, though. So
they do.
It's going to be very interesting. Going to be very interesting seeing how the Seahawks maneuver throughout the rest of the year. But let's go ahead and move on to the second topic. It's time for second quarter. Alrighty. So, Bill, you mentioned Groundhog's Day in the last segment. Let me see if you've heard this story again. Josh Gordon is being reinstated by the NFL. And now he's going to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, he will start off on their practice squad and, of course, work his way on to being on the active roster. But, Kristy, we're going to start with you here.
Okay.
Josh Gordon, I feel like whenever he does make his comeback, quote unquote, or comebacks with an S on the end,
right.
People keep on thinking that he's the same guy that he was in Cleveland. Like, I think people keep on bringing up those moments. I just think that we're so far removed from those years. Like, it was literally like almost a decade ago. Mm. What type of impact do we really expect him to have for this Kansas City Chiefs offense?
Well, adding Josh Gordon, it will add depth to their offense. But what I'm actually worried about with Josh Gordon is, will he get like suspended again from his, drug abuse? That's my issue. With Kansas City signing Josh Gordon, I don't see long term because I'm just not sure will he get suspended indefinitely or a couple games. Like, I don't know what's going on. So that's my issue. But as far as the offense though, he's going to add more depth. It's going to be fun seeing him play alongside with Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman and Travis Kelce. So that'll be fun. But I'm just worried about his health. Like, is he going to be dumb enough to do PED again, or, is it going to be an issue moving forward? That's my concern. with them signing Josh Gordon. So hopefully it all works out, and it works out with Kansas City. But I don't know. That's my concern. I don't really trust that right now.
And I think that is a lot of people's sentiment is, how many times do you keep getting another chance? Thomas, what type of impact do we think Josh Gordon's going to have?
You know, as much as we love Groundhog's Day on this episode of No Huddle Necessary, I actually have another way of looking at it. Do y'all remember what happened to Antonio Brown? How, he used to be like at the top of his game. Then things started happening, so he started moving team to team. And then he got to the very lowest in terms of his career is concerned. And he just found himself in a perfect opportunity. He found Tom Brady. Tom Brady found him. Whatever you want to put it, they found each other. And that's how I feel about Josh Gordon. I think he's going to end up having the Antonio Brown effect, is what I'm going to call it. He's going to alleviate the pressure off of Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Hardman, and Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield. Of course, it's the best ability is availability, and when it comes to Josh Gordon, you can never be certain about his availability. But I also take into consideration into the fact that I'm seeing a lot of growth in terms of him maturing during this process. First time something happens, shame on you. Second time, it's shame on me. The third time, it's shame on everybody. And I think for him, he is definitely grown and matured over this time because he realized that this is something that he really enjoys doing. So I don't think that he wants to jeopardize this opportunity, given the fact that he's playing alongside these men. And if you think about it, the last time we saw him, which was in Seattle, he averaged 19.9 yards per reception, and his yards per target was also 12.6. So you're joining a team that already has Tyreek Hill that has 267 yards receiving on the year. You have Kelsey with 289 receiving yards on the year. And I just take all that into consideration, and he doesn't have to do all that he did in Cleveland. But thank you. But it does also help that his quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. And I just think you take everything into consideration. He doesn't have to do a lot. He just has to do what the offense designs him to do. And I think he'll be effective and be just fine.
Okay, so Thomas believes that Josh Gordon will pan out, be a good fit in Kansas City. Bill, what are your thoughts?
So I'm somewhere between the two. I don't think his issues have to do with him being undisciplined or silly or unintelligent. He has a disease. Addiction is a disease. And what I would like to believe is that what he's learned and the people who are supporting him have learned is what things trigger him and which things help him to manage his disease. Now, here's a little fun fact. I think the question was, what will his impact be? I have two words for you, right? The first word is Sammy. The second word is Watkins. Who's going to be that Sammy Watkins? Now, here's a fun fact. Sammy Watkins is actually almost 2 years younger than Josh is. So Josh Gordon is a height, weight, speed receiver who's 30 years of age. While that's not ideal, he's not going to be asked to carry the offense. Now, he'll have maybe 1 or 2 games where he goes off just because of the way the defense is playing all those other weapons. But he still is a physically imposing specimen, 6'2" and 7/8", 221 pounds. And while he might not be a 4'3" guy anymore, he's probably still somewhere in the 4'4s, which is plenty fast at his size. he was on the cusp of becoming a superstar, right? We remember, the fact that he was breaking records that were held by people like, Randy Moss. But as was pointed out, that was a very long time ago. He doesn't have to be that player anymore, though. In fact, he won't be. He can't be. He's not going to enough touches, right? We've already established how this offense works. So now we just need that guy that when everybody is occupied with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and Edwards-Helaire and anybody else who's emerged in the offense, that guy who could still run, well enough to make a big play on the backside, right? So you've got Tyreek Hill running a streak. Who can run that dig, right? That gets you 27 yards. He can do that. When somebody's jumping, right? The safeties are all coming down on that seam route, right? That they see Kelsey running. Who can run that post pattern behind it? He can still do that. So he'll be quiet a lot, but he'll have 2 or 3 big games. And if at the right time, then I guess it's worth it. But yes, you've got to manage him because he has a disease that unfortunately, if not well managed, can literally take your life.
I think that's well said. And, like I said, it does, like I said, we've mentioned Groundhog's Day. It just keeps getting these chances, and obviously it's because of, we saw what he did. We know how talented he is. Mm-hmm. And he's been in situations before where, he's had good leadership around him. Hopefully this is a situation where that type of impact can come and, really help out. We'll see. Like I said, I want more than anything at this point for Josh Gordon, I just want to make sure that he is healthy, right? Like whether you're playing football or not, doesn't really matter to me at this point. That's not the main thing here. It's about, are you healthy? Where are you mentally, physically, and all that other stuff. But that being said, I do think that he will have a pretty, not huge impact, but I think he'll be good. I think the Sammy Watkins comp for this offense is a great one for what he might be able to fill in for the Kansas City Chiefs. That being said, it's halftime. We're through the first 2 topics here, so we're gonna take a quick break, let the guys get some water, everything. We'll let you all come right back after these commercials. See you on the other side.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
Alrighty, so we are back. Oh, most of us are back. Thomas, did your lights go out on us again?
Wouldn't be surprised if it did. It did something.
Take your time. Thomas is gonna drop out real quick while he's getting his lights fixed up and everything. I think we're good now. Are we good now, Thomas? There we go.
There we go.
Fully illuminated. Wonderful.
Something is not on my side over here. That's not cool.
Alrighty, so we're back now. Time for the third quarter. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alrighty, so the long-awaited, I guess, emergence, or not really emergence, but Justin Fields got his first start. And I think it's been a very highly anticipated one. It's one that many Chicago Bears fans and even people who aren't necessarily fans of the Bears have been clamoring that he should be the one to start. He finally got that opportunity against a very tough Cleveland Browns team. And it was not pretty. Was so bad, in fact, that it had people going out and full-on conspiracy theorists saying Matt Nagy intentionally sabotaged this offense so that way Justin Fields would look bad and all this other stuff, right? Whether through negligence or sabotage, what are the Bears? When are the Bears going to stop doing this dog and pony show? When are the Bears going to go ahead and fire Nagy? Are they gonna do it now? Are they gonna drag this out towards the end of the season? Like, what's the thought process in Chicago right now? Bill, we'll start with you.
Well, I can tell you this much: they're not gonna fire him now. They've never, in the history of the entire franchise, fired a coach this early in the season. It's not their way. They're gonna give him a chance to right the ship or further dig his own grave. I guess we'll see which. But he's not getting off the hook that easy. So for those who like numbers, I guess Thomas threw these around. So for first-round draft pick quarterbacks in the past 10 years, there have only been 2 worse debut performances. Brandon Wheaton, and this is a number for the ages, who had a passer rating of 5.1. I didn't say 51. I said 5.1. That there should be a place in the Hall of Fame where they have that number like framed or something, because I don't know how you get a 5.1 passer rating in 2012. And here's another fun fact. The next on the list, another Browns first-round quarterback, Jonathan Paul Manziel, 2 years later, 2014, at 27.3. And next in the leader, well, it's not leader, I guess. It's the loser board, maybe in this case, is Justin Fields, 41.2. Now, it should be stated that Justin Fields was not ready. It should also be stated that he was not made ready, and they didn't do the things that he's best at. It was a classic case of taking a round peg and saying, I'm going to put this round peg squarely into a square hole. And if it doesn't work, I'll put it in a square hole harder. Now, I understand being persistent and having your way of doing things and putting your stamp on the organization, but there comes a time to say, oh, this is not working. Let me try something else. Now, perhaps that's what will happen next week. Perhaps not even next week now, it's just a few days. Perhaps the next time we see the Bears offense, if Justin Fields still has a job, and of course, apparently all options are on the table. That's what I was told in the press conference. We could see Nick Foles. We might see Andy Dalton. We might see Justin Fields. We might see all 3. Yahtzee! But it's clear at this point that Matt Nagy is very wedded to Matt Nagy's way of doing things on offense. He wants to do the things that they do the way they do them, no matter what. And there comes a time to realize that things have changed around you. Unless and until you adapt, you cannot survive, right? In order to survive, that's true of every organism on our planet. In order to survive, you must adapt. We'll see if Matt Nagy can do so. Thus far, he has not.
Yeah, Matt Nagy has now had 4 different quarterbacks try and run his system. All of them have failed miserably. At some point, it's not the quarterbacks.
What's the through line? What's the connecting tissue there?
Exactly. At some point, it's you. Kristy, I know you're emotional about this. Remember, this is a family show, so
yes,
I know.
Go
too over the board. But go ahead and air out your grievances, because I know you have some.
Well, I know the Bears is not going to fire Matt Nagy after the loss against the Browns Sunday. They should have, in my opinion, but rumor is around Chicago that if we lose to the 0-3 Detroit this coming up Sunday, that he may get fired. But if that don't happen, because they do seem comfortable in their position, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, that they're going to stay for the rest of the season, and whatever happens, happens. It's frustrating because at this point, like, Matt Nagy, what is you doing? Like, how that game was so hard to watch. Like, how did you let Justin Fields get sacked like 9 times and then get hit 16 times? How? Like, and then Matt Nagy, he ran the same plays over and over and over. The same plays for Dalton, the same plays for Fields. He didn't have any plays that's set up for Justin Fields. So I don't know what Matt Nagy is doing. I've heard Matt Nagy doesn't really trust rookie quarterbacks or anything like that. I don't know what he's doing at this point. So he needs to go, in my opinion. And if he don't go, I feel like he should stop play calling altogether because it's just not it. You know what I'm saying? It's so bad over here that people are really apologizing or trying to see that Trubisky probably wasn't as bad as he thought, because we all think that Matt Nagy is the main issue in Chicago. You know, Trubisky, now he's gone. He's going to excel with Buffalo and wherever else. But it's like now with Justin Fields, you know, if Matt Nagy stays and Fields stay, that Nagy is going to like wholeheartedly mess up Justin Fields' career in Chicago. That's how I feel. He's not going to do well here. He's not going to succeed here. It's going to be another year, same BS. It's just bad. And then on top of that, our offensive line didn't do their job at all because they just gave up. They gave up in the game against the Browns. Like Justin Fields didn't get a chance to even like try. Bill said that Fields wasn't ready. I don't even think he had a chance to be ready because as soon as Justin Fields snapped the ball out the pocket, the Browns defense in his face. You know, he getting sacked, he getting hit. So it's like, how can he get a chance? What can he do? He can do anything but get hit. So going into week 4 against Detroit, they're 0-3. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know what to expect. I feel like if the Bears do lose against Detroit, we're not gonna win like the rest of our games. Maybe 1 or 2. I think we're gonna beat the Giants. We played them like week 14 or 15. Because we have a hard schedule. We got to play Detroit, then we got to play the Raiders, we got to play Green Bay, then we got to play Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, then we got a bye week, we got the Steelers. It's just we're not going to do well. Same BS another year. So Nagy needs to go. Nonetheless, he needs to go. Please
I think,
go.
What did I see? What Mitchell Trubisky left, went to Buffalo, and probably played the greatest game of his career in that preseason game against Chicago.
Yes, he got 4. I think he got 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. 4.
Exactly. Played very well. Played very well. The moment he got away from
even though it was preseason, but he got 4. Yep. Buffalo smoked us that preseason game. That was like his homecoming. Like, look, I ain't that bad. What's up, Chicago?
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
How about you?
Whoa. I thought I was gonna be the emotional one. So here's the deal. I think we all have an understanding of how the Bears organization works. They're going to let this ride through. I do believe that Fields needed this experience in order for him to grow as a quarterback. He just needed this experience under his belt. However, just to put last week's game into proper perspective here, Justin Tucker's 66-yard field goal, the one that broke the record against your beloved Detroit Lions, got further than the Bears' offense in total the entire game with 47 yards. Which, when you do the math and you put everything in the perspective of how that game went, they ended up with 1 net yard the entire game. That's insane. And to go to a little bit of a deeper dive of how bad it was Sunday, Fields had 20 passing attempts. 13 of those 20, the Bears went with a 5-man protection. They just had their whole offensive line block Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and that Browns front 7 one-on-one. And oh, by the way, the Browns front 7 is now named Myles Garrett, in case anybody knew. 3 times out of the 20, they had a 6-man protection where the running back chipped somewhere in there, and they didn't move the pocket until the middle of the second quarter, and only 2 designed QB runs. It's bad. It's a bad look for Nagy, because I remember saying at the beginning of the season that, I didn't think that he was on the hot seat, just for the simple fact that despite all that he had to go through on the offensive side of the ball, he still found a way to get this team into the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. And of course, you credit the defense and even the great running back play, whether it was Tariq Cohen or Derek Montgomery now. But I didn't think that it was this bad. Then Sunday happened, and I watched a team that wasn't prepared, got beat up in all 3 phases: mentally, physically, emotionally. Okay, it was very bad. And I saw a coach that didn't know how to get his team ready. And to see that going forward, I know how the Bears are. I know how most organizations are in this league. They're not going to go off of these 3 games because they're going to say what we all been saying throughout the years as too early. But to see this is not a great look for him or the Bears for this matter. But if you think about it, though, this is what they get. They gave Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace a second shot with them getting Fields and them getting this opportunity. So I think they're going to play it out and wait to see how it goes. But boy, oh boy, this is not good at all.
I think, and Bill, I know you talk about, that's not what the Bears do, right? Like it's they don't fire, and sometimes it's nice to have traditions. It's nice to have, culture and things that you stand by. I'm a Steeler fan.
He's gonna go there.
We have those type of things, right? We have those type of traditions, right? We don't pay guys during the season, and we don't talk about contract extensions and yada yada yada. And then TJ Watt became the highest paid defensive player in the league. So certain times, certain circumstances require maybe some different thinking.
Yeah, the term I used was adaptation. You have to adapt.
It is never too early to cut out a cancer. That is exactly what Matt Nagy is. Matt Nagy is a cancer to this team.
What makes it worse, Matt Nagy said in a press conference, I think it was yesterday, that for week 4, he don't know what quarterbacks to start.
It could be any of them.
It could be any Dominic Foles or even Justin Fields. That makes it even worse. How you not know who to start? Because isn't Dalton still hurt with that bone bruise? Like, how you not know who was going to start?
And then to the idea that Justin Fields was not ready. That's not an indictment on Fields. That is an indictment on Nagy.
That the indictment was not of Fields.
Yes.
But he wasn't ready, but it wasn't his fault he wasn't ready. He wasn't made ready.
He didn't get a chance to be ready.
Because it is Matt Nagy's. Exactly. It is Matt Nagy's responsibility to get him ready. And I think it was just hilarious during this entire offseason when Matt Nagy, basically, because they were saying this is a quarterback competition, but it wasn't. It was very clear. Matt Nagy had no intentions of even remotely giving Justin Fields an opportunity to win this job outright.
0% chance, yes.
And that isn't like every time Nagy was going out there and just saying he's not ready. It was like, do you not realize that you're talking negatively about yourself when you say that? Because every time you say that, again, that goes back to you not doing your job. You've now failed 2 young quarterbacks.
Yep.
Okay. Granted, do I think Mitchell Trubisky was a great prospect coming out of college? No.
But
should he have looked as bad as he did? Not at all. And we saw, granted, it was one preseason game, but we saw what being in Brian Dable's system did for Mitchell Trubisky in one game.
Yeah.
So I think this is a time where, again, you have to adapt. Matt Nagy does nothing for you, right? Nothing. Because think about it. Even like Matt Nagy was supposed to be like this offensive guru. Last year, the best the Bears looked last year was when Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator, started calling plays. And literally, it was like a 3 or 4 week stretch where this Bears offense was putting up 30 points a game.
Mhm.
And then for whatever reason, I guess Matt Nagy realized, oh, if I'm not calling plays, then people will really understand that there's nothing here that I actually contribute to. And so he took the responsibility back.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the Bears lost. So I think
This is so bad.
there's a lot going on in Chicago right now. The Bears might be moving to Arlington. Like,
Oh, I don't like that move.
it's a bunch of stuff. There's a
don't like
bunch
that
of
move.
things going on in Chicago right now. But the one that
Yeah.
needs to happen, Matt Nagy, get him out of here, run him out of town. Because at this point, damn near anyone is better than him.
You can't help but wonder when somebody looks at Andy Reid's staff. There's Eric Bieniemy, there's Matt Nagy, and you think, "Give me Matt Nagy." I don't think Eric Bieniemy's ready, right? I mean, it is incredibly frustrating. You can't help but wonder what's wrong with people, and you hear things like, "Well, maybe he doesn't interview well." Well, then maybe you're interviewing wrong, right? Because you keep picking dudes. Look at the line of coaches. Lovie Smith had a nice little run, right?
Mhm.
But everyone else they've hired, I mean, no offense to Dick Gerard, and I mean, it's been a who's who of the quarterbacks they've hired. I mean, of the coaches they've hired.
Mhm.
And maybe you need to do a different way of choosing coaches, because there's a reason you have had zero success in finding long-term success in terms of your coaching. And this guy's going to get blown out of there soon too. It's just a matter. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And if they keep hiring the same version of or different versions of the same guy, they're going to keep having the same problem.
Mhm.
Listen, Chicago, you messed up last time. You have a chance to right the wrong. Fire Nagy, hire Eric Bieniemy this offseason, and let's just see what happens. Let's just see.
Get rid of both of them. Get rid of both of them. I mean, everybody says it's a Nagy thing, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take the blame away from him, right?
Right.
But Ryan Pace helped make this roster as well.
Oh, yes.
And
The smartest guy in the room, Ryan Pace. Yeah.
I will.
Like, he's giving me.
I don't think Ryan Pace has been bad. I think that
Really?
He's not doing his job.
when you look at this offensive line, like the offensive line right now, yes, it's bad. But
Adam
most of the
Shaheen,
moves that
Dom. Look, I ride or die for small school kids, but Adam Shaheen was even the best small school tight end that year.
right.
Like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
I think Ryan Pace has had some really big oopses that overlook some of the better moves that he's made.
Oh, I'm not denying. I mean, Tariq Cohen, he's had some good draft picks, and obviously the move to bring in. They've done there's some things, but some of these things he's done. How do I put this? I'll give you credit for doing certain things, but sometimes you're just doing your job, right? I mean, how much can I praise you for doing your job, doing exactly what your job is? But when you are messing, first of all, I mean, I know he'll never outlive this, but he deserves to never outlive this. You will never outlive, and you deserve to never outlive trading up to bypass both Deshaun Watson and Patrick LeVon Mahomes to get Mitchell Trubisky.
Yep.
Should that be on his gravestone? Yes. There's no getting around that. When he does lose his job, and when eventually it will happen, that will be the thing that will be in the first line of every story about him getting fired, and it should be.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All righty, everyone, take a deep breath. We all good now?
Yeah, I'm right.
So the Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy hate fest is find him.
All righty. Well, with that being said, go ahead and throw up your fours, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for the fourth quarter. Alrighty, so I mentioned the Steelers earlier, and it really brings me no joy in talking about this topic right now. The Steelers' offensive woes that plagued them really for the large part of the season last year. It was getting overlooked because they started off the season 11-0. But this offense was bad well before they started losing games last year. And I was hesitantly optimistic that, okay, new offensive coordinator, a young O-line, great running back now that a great running back prospect who I think will become a great running back. I was, again, hesitantly optimistic that, okay, this offense may take – I don't think this offense is going to go and put up 30 points a game, right? But if we can put up 23, 24, we're fine. Because this defense, as long as that defense is healthy, you're not scoring more than 20 on them. That's just how great they are. But, again, we've seen it. The offensive line not performing well. Can't pass block. Can't run block. There's no holes for Najee Harris to run through. Ben looks absolutely washed. Where do the Steelers go from here? Thomas, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I speak for some fans in the state of Pennsylvania. We're not the only state in the United States of America that's struggling right now. And that's okay. It's always good to know that we're not alone. Here's the deal. How you let Big Ben hold your franchise hostage all off season? Don't know. I think that's something you have to look at. The GM, Kevin Colbert. I hope I said his name right. Hope I said it right. You might look at him for that. The fact that you allow him to come back knowing that the last time you saw him, he threw the ball 60 times in a playoff game and not one pass gave you hope that he was going to do great the following season. You bring him back. You lose pieces of your offensive line that are veterans. Granted, Marquise Pouncey retires. Then Villanueva, one of your guards, he's gone. You have a wide receiving core, and that most people like. I like them. They're solid, but none of them scream. They all play their same role. Like Juju Smith-Schuster could play a slot, but he's not a great outside wide receiver. Chase Claypool, great in the slot. Not sure if he's a great outside receiver. Deontay Johnson, great in the slot. Not sure if he's a great outside receiver. Okay, you go into the draft, you draft Najee Harris, thinking that he would, provide, the mantra of what the Steelers are. Run the ball, stop the run, right? It's kind of hard to do that when you don't have the linemen on both sides of the football to do either one of those things. Okay? There is no reason why Najee Harris had the most targets and receptions for the Steelers this past Sunday. There is no way. I don't recall Smith-Schuster getting hurt. Claypool, I don't recall him getting hurt. Deontay Johnson, I know he's bugged up with injuries already this year, but there's the wide receivers on that roster that can still help get the ball past the line of scrimmage. I mean, something, okay? And then you look at the opposite side of the ball, look at the defense, and I'm going, okay, you lost Bud Dupree. You already got injuries already. TJ Watt already has a groin injury. I don't know how many people on that Steelers roster have to have a groin injury, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. And I'm looking at a team that looks like they have to rebuild, like from top to bottom. But I'm tired of people saying that this is, Mike Tomlin needs to lose his job. If the season is going the way that I think it's going to go, this would be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. Think about that. The entire run of him being head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this will be his first losing season. So I wouldn't call for his job, even though people like to call for his job year in, year out. But I do think it's time to start trade for draft capital. You need to let Ben retire after this season, and you need to attack in free agency because that's not going to happen anytime soon because y'all don't have the money because of Ben's contract. But, just you have to start from scratch with this one. Got to.
So I'll give a little pushback on a couple things. The Steelers, as of right now, our cap space is terrible. But next year, I think our cap space is actually going to be tremendous. I think we're going to have the 5. We're going to be top 5 in cap space next year, something like that. Especially with Ben more than likely retiring, his contract will be coming off the books and things like that. But I do agree. Like I said, the biggest problem for the Steelers right now, at least from what I see, is it's really the offensive line and the quarterback. Like I said, if this defense is healthy, and you mentioned everyone keeps pulling groins, it seems like there's some sort of it's like it's going around, like it's an epidemic in Pittsburgh where guys are just spraining and pulling groins left and right. I don't get it. I don't understand why. But assuming that defense can get healthy, I think they'll be fine. Kristy,
yes.
How do you feel? Where do the Steelers go?
Where the Steelers go from here? Well, I think we can all agree that Big Ben is kind of on his last leg in the league right now. I think he needs to go ahead and go to like retirement. So if that's the case, what I would do if I was the Steelers, I would probably trade for a third or fourth pick and give those picks to Houston and get Laramie Tunsil for the offensive line because he can play either guard position and he can probably be a mentor to the team for like the younger guys. And then I will also say to get a quarterback, I would say get Mitchell Trubisky from Buffalo. And I say that because Trubisky does have, I guess, a chip on his shoulder. And he got a point to prove. Like, yeah, Nagy, messed up my career in Chicago, but I'm still a second pick quarterback. I know how to play. So if you guys want to win, or if they want to win within the next couple of years, I would probably say get Trubisky. But if they want to win right now, to get a quarterback, you still have Cam Newton out there, regardless of all that drama he had. You still have Cam Newton. He's still good. I would still consider him as a elite quarterback in the league. He went to the Super Bowl. You know what it takes to win. So if I was the Steelers, I would probably do one of the two things on top of getting Laramie for the offensive line to fix that issue.
So I do like the idea.
Okay.
It's a long shot. It's a long shot with Laramie Tunsil. I do like that idea, though. That would be a godsend. Don't ever mention Mitchell Trubisky in the Steelers jersey to me ever, please. Please.
Hey, I mean, look.
Don't ever put
look. I only
that
say
image
that
in my head.
Hey, I like it. Hey, because look, he signed he's with Buffalo for a year. So after this year, he's going to be a free agent. So they need a quarterback. So you need, he's out there.
That bothers the host so bad. I've never seen a host so bothered.
Mitchell Trubisky. Listen, Mitchell Trubisky has some talent, but he is best suited as a backup quarterback. We don't need any more backup quarterbacks in Pittsburgh.
He's not going to play in Buffalo under Josh Allen. So
he might have.
If you have to rebuild, kind of get Trubisky and build around him. I'm sorry.
So I think everyone else, we're all out on the Trubisky to Pittsburgh.
That's okay, but
Still,
nonetheless, they need to get a quarterback so they can win right now.
Well, There are quarterbacks you can get and you can win right now. I mean, I mentioned Case Keenum earlier, and we saw what he did with Minnesota, and obviously we already remember the Minneapolis Miracle. I think he actually would cost you slightly more than Trubisky, but not that much more. And I think he signed, I think probably a 3-year deal, but I think the last year of it is voidable. I'd have to check just to be sure with Cleveland. But here's the most important thing. I think the question was, where are the Steelers going? Dom Choroski, I've been a fan of the Steelers for almost 50 years. And where they're going is 5-12. That's where they're going. Now, this team is managed through muscle memory and mystique and commitment to whatever to miracle its way to winning seasons when they had no business. This was a bad team last year that managed to win a lot of football games. And some of that is through coaching, right? Some of that was through teams that were slow to adapt, right? They were slow to adapt to what the Steelers were doing. Once they figured out, oh, they're throwing everything 7 to 12 yards down the field. We just have to flood those underneath zones. Oh, I get it. Now, it took them a while to catch on for whatever reason. But once they did catch on, it was trouble. So Keenum becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2023. So you'd have to make some sort of deal. You said, trading stuff. You wouldn't even have to trade a third. You could probably get him for a 5th or a 6th to the Browns, quite frankly. But if you're trying to win now. But this team isn't a win now kind of team anymore. I mean, I know they think they are. I know they believe they are. But sometimes there's a difference between what you believe and what reality is. The old saying is, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Well, in this case, I'm going to believe my lying eyes. I looked hard at this team. Hard. Position by position, all the way across the board. So they had some players that graded out well. Well, above average, not well. Trey Turner, the guard, ended up with a 71.6 pass blocking and run blocking combined grade, right? Cody White, who only plays a few snaps, and he played 9 snaps, he graded out slightly above average. Joe Haig graded out at a 66.9. He's a rotational offensive tackle. He plays some right tackle and occasionally even left. Fryamuth, who is a young player who I think has a lot of promise, graded out at 65.6. And then another backup, or a guy that spells their center, Hasenhauer, played 9 snaps, right? He graded above average. The problem is that a lot of their starters graded out terribly, or at least poor. Kendrick Green, who I still have a lot of hope for, I still think becomes a very good, at least run blocker. His pass blocking is still an adventure at this point in his career, but he graded at 51.9. James Washington graded out at 51.2. Dan Moore graded out at 51. Ray McLeod, who played 47 snaps, which is more snaps than he usually plays, but graded out at 49.4. And, of course, this is one of my least favorite free agent signings in the last several years, and he's proving to everyone why he was my least favorite. Eric Ebron, who I think is going to be ushered – you talked about cap space earlier, Dom. At some point, they're going to get out from under his contract. But he graded out a 36.8. Ben was a 57.2. Najee was a 57.3. Derek Watt, the other Watt brother, only played 7 snaps, but 57.2 as well, a 56.1 for Benny Snell. Now, here's the thing that bothers me, is that some of the best, what we think are the best players, right, in the secondary, right, we all celebrated. We all got so excited, right, when Minkah Fitzpatrick came. Minkah graded out depending on whose grading you look at, in the 40s for that game. This is a guy who's essentially maybe not quite Ed Reed, but the king, right? The chess piece, the guy who makes it all happen in the back half of the defense, had one of his worst games of his Steelers career. We hang our hat on defense, right? That's what everybody says, right? Our defense didn't have a great game either. Like, everyone's banging away, and rightly so, on the offense, which is anemic. But that defense, and I looked hard. I watched that game multiple times, as much as it hurt, Dom, and we had people out of position. We had missed tackles. We had people who didn't stay in their rush lanes or their run fits, right? We had misses and mistakes all across both sides of the ball. The problem is not so much people talk about Mike Tomlin. Like Mike Tomlin is apparently a wizard, but Mike Tomlin has a quarterback who is essentially retired already. I mean, I don't know what anyone was looking at when they think that, no matter what happens, this has got to be it for the end of the line for Ben Roethlisberger. And he's had a Hall of Fame career, but it's essentially over. They have not managed to recover from losing Pouncey. And understandable. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's consistently Pro Bowl / All-Pro kind of player. They have not replaced him. The center position is still a problem for this team and must be upgraded. We still haven't really replaced Casey Hampton all these years later. We have great exterior players, but the interior of the defensive line has never fully recovered from the loss of Casey Hampton. Joe Hayden is still a solid but not a great corner. We've got to address in the draft corner. Tight end, well, we've got Freiermuth, so not so much tight end, but we have to get rid of Ebron. We definitely have to find a quarterback. Even if we find a veteran that we can afford in free agency, we still have to, or trade for one, we still have to draft one to develop. A real one. I mean, no offense to the guys that we've had. And obviously, people still hold out some hope, a little bit of hope, but I really feel like if Dwayne Haskins was going to happen, it'd be happening now, right? If he were showing people things in practice that made him look like he could be a starter, he would be starting because this is a franchise that likes to win, and they can't win the way that this team is currently set up. And one last thing, I don't dislike Najee Harris, but this team has so many needs to take what I think of as essentially a luxury, because drafting a running back early is a luxury. When your team is completely set every place else, you can go ahead and draft a running back early. This is not that team. And Najee is still a valuable player. He catches the ball well. He's pretty good in blitz pickup. He's not a speedster, so you don't get a lot of big plays out of him, but he gives you a lot of medium-sized plays. That's fine. But you can get a guy who can give you all those things later in the draft. There are going to be guys who have the exact same or even better careers than Najee who were drafted 2, 3, 4 rounds later. So that's the only thing that bothers me about Najee's selection. Freiermuth, like I said, is going to give us good value, but they've got to accrue draft picks. Anybody who has value, we should trade them and try to get back picks. I mean, this is a true rebuild. Let's stop pretending that we're a contender and rebuild for real. And that's my piece.
Yeah. Like I said, I was hesitantly optimistic. I was one of the people who I didn't delude myself, right, into believing like I knew like best case scenario we're like a 10-7 team, more than likely going to end up being in that 7-10 range. Like I knew, right? Like I knew what was coming. I just didn't think it would look this bad early on. I am one of those people who holds out hope for Dwayne Haskins. I do think that in this right environment, he has an opportunity. However, I do agree with your point that,
but he can't just be handed the job. We have to. This has to be a real quarterback competition, not a fake one. This has to be a real one.
And the thing that scares me is that I believe Kevin Colbert knows what he's doing for the most part. I hope we aren't one of those teams that is just like, we need a quarterback, so we reach for one this draft, this upcoming class, because this is not the class to do it.
Nope.
This upcoming quarterback draft class out of college does not, like we've spoken about this before. There's no one that I have a first round grade on. I know, Bill, you're pretty headstrong about Carson.
Well, here's the guy that I've really gotten excited about, and I think you can get him in the middle rounds, is Jake Haener from Fresno State. He's killing it. He's throws with touch and anticipation. He's gutsy. I've seen him stand in and just get walloped. He's not the biggest cat in the world. He's listed at 6'1", probably not quite that, about 206 pounds, but he has not a cannon, but a live arm, like strong enough. People always whip out comparisons like Drew Brees or whatever. I'm not going to go that far, but we talked about Case Keenum, right? We talked about Tyler Heineke. He's better than Heineke. and probably even a little bit better than Keenum. He throws some challenging routes. It's like he's throwing little dink and dunks. I mean, if you haven't watched Fresno State's offense, I highly recommend you watch it. It's one of the more interesting and really exciting offenses in all of college football.
Yep. So it looks like it's going to be a long season for me.
There's hope.
Season. Listen. I do agree. There are. I think for the most part, though, I don't think it's necessarily a full-on rebuild. I think, and this is just the way that I look, I still see there are good pieces around where if we can
build around them,
and exactly, and we can build around those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this offensive line needs to get better. Hopefully, Zach Banner might be coming back from IR soon.
Well,
if he can stay healthy, that's his main thing, because he is.
I mean, you can lose a lot of money banking on Zach Banner, Dominic Choroski. I'm just letting you know this now.
Listen, I know. But
if that's your plan, if your plan is Zach Banner, I think you need a better plan.
Oh, absolutely. But again, it's one of those situations where I feel like we're at rock bottom, so we can't get any worse. Having him back can't hurt us at this point. But yeah, I do agree with you. This fellow Steeler fans, and I'm 24 years old. I don't ever remember a time when the Steelers were a bad football team. So this is all new to me.
Yeah.
This is all new to me.
I remember watching Terry Hanratty going out there, and it was not great in those days, but you could see it coming together. Like, I got to see them on the rise. Mm-hmm. And the game that locked me in as a fan was September the 18th, 1972. And they had this dramatic come from behind where they were down, I think 20, maybe 23 points, maybe. They were down big to the Raiders and had this furious comeback. And I was like, yeah, this is my team. Mm-hmm. And I got to watch Terry Bradshaw go from being a guy you were like, oh, God, no, not Terry Bradshaw, to, oh, Terry Bradshaw, right? Yeah. I got to see all that stuff happen in real time. I got to see the 74 draft where they drafted 4 Hall of Famers. I watched all that happen in real time. And, well, this is not that, right? First of all, you can't keep that much talent on your team anymore because of the salary cap. Yeah. But this team is still very steeped in thinking about what it used to be, right? It's one of those teams that unfortunately gets a little too wedded to its past at times. Yeah. And I say this as the old guy, right? Mm-hmm. I recognize these problems. This team is still a little bit behind the times in the way it does certain things. Yeah. I'm hoping this is the year that makes them realize they have to, once again, adaptation. Mm-hmm. This is the year that teaches them, oh, we can't do what we did the way we've always done it. This has to be the year that teaches them that lesson.
I agree. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the best part of the show. It's time to announce a winner. Alrighty, so before we announce the winner, we have to send some people to the back. And I have to say, you all were phenomenal. Again, thank you all so much for being on the show today. You all were tremendous guests. But today, our first person going to the back is actually Mr. Bill Carroll. We're going to send you to the back this time. Thank you for being on. Great
pleasure always.
As always. And that leaves us with Kristy and Thomas. Both of you were tremendous tonight. Kristy, great debut.
Thank you.
You were phenomenal. Thomas, you came back. Like I said, the prodigal son returns. You both made this a really tough one tonight. But with that being said, Kristy, we are going to send you to the back. Thomas, congratulations on getting your first W of the season. He finally gets it. You, my man, get the FaceTime. Go ahead. It's all yours.
Sir, and thank you to my fellow contestants, Bill and Kristy. Appreciate the time. It's always great doing this. So I I took the time out to do this. Before I get to the bright side of things, I just want to say, I want to take the time out to say that, for those who don't know, I took a little hiatus from a lot of this stuff, and a lot of that had to do with my mental health. And this is kind of me taking the time out to, encourage those that are watching this show, that it is okay to not be okay. And we all, in some way, shape, or form, go through it in some way, shape, or form. And, I'm just glad that I have support and family to, always encourage me and uplift me in each and every way possible. So, just want to let, all those who are watching, it's okay to not be okay. And, always, know that you got somebody that you could talk to and try to reach out to them. Make sure you feel comfortable talking to them. Up to the bright side of things, Philadelphia Eagles. Let me tell y'all something right now. It didn't do me a lot of good watching what I saw Monday night. I hope this is not a sign of things to come. Because we got our tails handed to by Dallas Monday night. And I just want to say, going forward, Howie Roseman, please, 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 you have a plan of some sort. We have issues all over the field. It bothers me watching them play sometimes, because even when you have wins, even though it's one this season, like they did against Atlanta, where it looks like it was a great complimentary team win. You have games like Monday night where literally they just couldn't get past the scrimmage on offense, and it seemed like the defense was getting picked on in the same area every single time. All above anything else. Philadelphia Eagles front office plan. I can rest in a plan. But if there's no plan, we just running a whole bunch of chaos and we just saying, oh yeah, we have a quarterback factory. I'm concerned. And it's causing me a little bit of worry in my spirit. And so I just figured I would, share and get that off my chest now that I had the FaceTime to do so.
You feel good now? You got to air your grievances? Feel a little better?
I think so. I don't have any of the Eagles on my fantasy team, so they're not costing me any W's so far. I'm doing pretty good, I like to think. Yeah.
Very good, very good. And on this more serious note, I thank you for sharing what you've been going through, and again letting people know that these are things that everyone struggles with. These are things that everyone goes through, and like you said, it's okay to not be okay. Speak to the individuals that you have near you. No matter who you are, you always have someone who's there, who's willing to listen. But with that being said, I want to say thank you to our guests. Go ahead and give everyone a little bit of FaceTime here, so that way the people can know where to follow you at. Mr. Thomas, you were the winner today. Go ahead and let the people know where they can follow you at.
All right. So on Instagram, you can follow me at _. Is it 1 or 2? It's all you had to check it. Terrific Tom _. On Twitter, you can also follow me at _ again. Terrific Tom. I'm a little bit more active on Instagram more than anything else. That's where you can find me. You can talk football. I'll get into basketball this year, which is going to be pretty fun. You might catch me on some shows in Nuts and Bolts Sports, so be on the lookout for that. And I'll also do watch-alongs during game day on Sundays, especially during Sunday Night Football, so get a chance to interact with everybody and get a chance to spend time with everybody and enjoy the games. So, enjoy the festivities as much as everybody else.
All righty. Well, once again, thank you to our winner getting his first W of the season, Thomas. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Bill, where can the people follow you and what do you got going on and all that good stuff?
So later tonight, I'll be dropping my Saturday superlatives, looking back at this past Thursday and Saturday, I guess, games that took place in college football. You can also check out my Scouts Notebook on Nuts and Bolts Sports, where I'll be looking at some of the players that I've been scouting, including the aforementioned Jake Hayner, his favorite target, Jalen Cropper, Tyrese Freifogel, a bunch of other players that I've been scouting. And, of course, I got to see Kenneth Walker III go completely nuts in person when I was watching him against Northwestern. So I'll be writing up him and some other players. But the Saturday Superlatives will drop on Zinni62 Sports Media's YouTube page. I'm going to drop some content at the end of the week on Around the Block Black History. I'll do something for Nuts and Bolts. I'm still looking for a co-host for a Saturday morning college football preview show. So if somebody wants to co-host with me, I'm looking for a co-host for that show. And what else? Some other stuff. I recently dropped an article on Nuts and Bolts about the late, great Roger Brown, who was a player that I had been trying to advocate for making the Hall of Fame. He was the first great 300-plus pound player in NFL history. Despite his unusual size for that era, he was also an incredibly fast player. He was a sprinter in college and ran a 10-flat 100-yard dash. And when he was in camp, his first year with the Lions, weighing about 305 pounds, he managed to run a 5.4 50-yard dash. So think about that. That's equivalent to probably about 4.5, somewhere in the 4.5 range in a 40-yard dash at 305 pounds. I mean, we all marvel at what a great athlete a guy like Aaron Donald is. I don't think he could do that. I think he ran 4.68, which is still impressive, obviously. But that's some of the stuff we got going. You can follow me if you look there on the screen at 11Bravo138, or since there's two Twitter feeds, no waiting, capital B, capital C, ARROLL 138. So that B Carroll 138 is also where you can find me as well.
All righty. Well, thank you, Bill, again. Love it when you're on. Always a pleasure to have you. Another great performance. We'll see you next time. Miss Kristy Love, you made your debut. How was it?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? You had a good time?
It was cool. It was cool. I was nervous, but it was cool.
Listen, you were fantastic. You did a great job. Go ahead. Tell the people where they can follow you, what you got going on, anything you're doing.
Okay. You guys can follow me on Twitter at I am Kristy Love. You can follow me personally on Instagram at Kristy Love Media, the number 2. I have a podcast that comes on Nuts and Bolts every Tuesday or Wednesday called Foul on the Play. It drops every week. You can follow us on Instagram at Foul on the Play Pod. And that's it. That's it. Yeah.
All righty. Well, like I said, wonderful having you on the show. Look forward to having you on many, many times in the future.
All right.
And with that being said, that concludes this week's episode of No Huddle Necessary. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panel of guests. Again, it is always fun to work with you all, talk sports, talk football. I have a pretty easy job, and I enjoy it. But once again, thank you all so much for joining us. Like I said, make sure you check us out next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Wednesday, No Huddle Necessary. We'll see you all next Wednesday. Peace.